Could we have a roll call, please? The sound has changed. It is.
I just texted IT, so they'll take care of that, and we'll get to roll call. Mayor Miles.
Present.
Vice Mayor Watkins.
Here.
Councilmember Mello.
Here.
Councilmember Nelson.
Here. That was here.
Thank you. Councilmember Samley.
I'm here.
Councilmember Scott Staley.
Present.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, the invocation will be given by Pastor Tony Henry of the Kingman Nazarene Church. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this council and thank you for the opportunities to be able to come and pray to you openly and publicly. We thank you for this wonderful country that we have and the freedoms that you have provided to us. Father, we thank you for this wonderful city that we are a part of, and we thank you for the ways that our community comes together to support and encourage one another. Father, we thank you for these leaders that are here in person and online. Father, we ask that you be with them as they conduct business and make decisions that will affect the citizens of Kingman. Give them wisdom and discernment, insight and clarity. Help them to be able to listen and to respond with love for one another and our city. And may all that happens here tonight benefit our community and bring glory to you. Father, we again just ask you to be with all of our community members, especially those who serve. Keep them healthy and safe through all of the crazy things that are happening in our world. And again, Father, we just thank you for the many blessings and the way that you look after each one of us. And it's in the wonderful name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Thank you, Father.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening, we have a proclamation to recognize National Literacy Month. And before I read this, I'd just like to thank our local chapter of the Kingman Area Literacy Program because they do phenomenal work in helping people become literate. And so the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas literacy is proven to be an effective way to promote global prosperity and eliminate poverty, and whereas cultures that are literate embrace the key lever of change for economic development, social growth, and environmental protection. And whereas cultures best promote and support democracy, political stability, and peace based on many factors, but rely on, as a pivotal factor, literacy. And whereas literacy brings improved self-confidence to the individual, a heightened sense of belonging, and improved job opportunities, all of which contribute to a higher quality of life. Now, therefore, I, Jen Miles, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Kingman, Arizona, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2021 as National Literacy Month, and further declare September 8th, 2021 as International Literacy Day. I encourage each of us to recognize contributions made by Welcome and other literacy organizations, such as our local literacy program, CALP, Kingman Area Literacy Program, for the significant contributions they have made and continue to make in our community. In witness whereof, I have signed and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Kingman, the 17th day of August, 2021. Is anyone here from Welcome or CALP? Would you make sure that Aaron Roper or one of the constituents get this, or stakeholders? Next order of business is call to the public. Those wishing to address the council should fill out request forms in advance. Actions taken as a result of public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration and decision at a later time. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group, and they should last no more than 3 minutes. Now, this is a hybrid meeting, so people had a chance to register to call in or write comments or register to speak here tonight. Clerk Annie, did we have any of those?
Mayor, we did not have anybody register ahead of time to join us via Zoom, nor were any written comments submitted, and nobody in the audience this evening has submitted a form to address council at this time.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items, and however, if that's desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Do any of the council members want to remove any of the items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as stated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second
I'll
that motion.
second.
Thank you, Councilor Samily. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. We have no old business, so we'll move into new business. The first item is review and approval of water service, engineering 21-0055. Louis I'm not getting this right. Badisher, thank you, sir. On behalf of a group of property owners, is requesting water service to the following parcels. And there's a list, 310-13045, all the way through 310-13050. The intended use of these parcels is for residential homes. Section 33E of the utility regulation states that no unsubdivided property, lot, or parcel will be served with a water connection without prior approval of the Common Council after application and review through the Municipal Utility Commission. Also, no property shall be served with a water connection until a water distribution main extends the entire frontage of the parcel being served. Staff does not have any objection to providing water service to the parcels, but recommends that the extension be made in Mason Drive. The Municipal Utility Commission reviewed the request in their July 22nd meeting and voted 6-0 to recommend water service approval with the condition that a water main be extended in Mason Drive. Staff recommends water service approval with the condition that a water extension in accordance with utility regulations be made in Mason Drive. Manager Foggin, did you want to comment on this?
Yes, actually, Phil will be covering this item for you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you mentioned, this is a request for water service approval. This is north of town, about a mile and a half north of the airport. There's a map up on the screen showing the area in question. There's a total of 5 parcels highlighted there in yellow. There's a dedicated road called Mason Drive that kind of splits some of those parcels. Of note, there's 3 parcels in the rear of that section in yellow that do not have frontage along Highway 66. And so as staff looked at this request, we sent out a request for comments from different city departments. And we did receive some comments from the Public Works Department and also from the Fire Department. And there was just a few concerns raised as a result of the review. The first concern primarily is relating to the requirement to extend across the total frontage of the properties to be served. So that would affect the 3 properties there to the rear. Normally, we would ask for a water main to extend across the frontage of those 3 properties. And also, just as a note, that corner property there, the 310-13046, would also, since it's a corner, it would require the extension along both frontages. As you can see there, there's a water main along Highway 66. It kind of transitions from a 6-inch to an 8-inch main, but primarily it would be an 8-inch main. There's also a couple of fire hydrants along Highway 66. You can see one there adjacent to the lots, the 024 and 023, and there's another one a little bit further south. Normally, like I said, we would require extension across the entire frontage just to make sure it's the best practice to make sure that there's water available. Should there be development further along to, in this case, it would be kind of like the northwest part of the section there outside of their property. So it's usually just best practice to extend it across the total frontage of the property. Second concern that came up was related to, and this came from the Public Works Department. So the applicant would prefer to just, for those 3 lots in the rear, to have 3 meters all the way out at Highway 66. And then they would run a private service line in Mason Drive. And the concern with that is usually when you have long service lines, you have friction losses and whatnot, and the pressure will go down. And in this area, we also have pressure issues. It's kind of at a dead end of our water distribution system. So there's some concern that if there were meters placed out on the highway, there would be a potential that adequate pressure wouldn't be available for the homes further back. Finally, the last concern came from the fire district. There's a requirement that all homes be within 250 feet of a fire hydrant. Like I said, the closest fire hydrant's out there on Highway 66. Likely, the fire district would request a fire hydrant right where the road bends, and so that they would be within 250 feet of a fire hydrant. And you can only connect a fire hydrant to a water main. It wouldn't be part of a service. So in summary, there's kind of 2 parts to this request. There's the water service request for these 5 parcels. And as it was mentioned, Mr. Battersher's representing a group of owners. That there's a few different owners included in this group of properties. So the first request, or the first part, is the water service approval. And then, as I mentioned, Mr. Battersher has requested to not extend the water in Mason Drive. And so this was heard by the Municipal Utility Commission. They voted 6-0 to approve the water service with the condition that the water main be extended in Mason Drive, and that is the staff's recommendation as well. So I'm here to answer any questions, if there aren't any questions. And the applicant is here as well, so that you can ask him of any questions as well.
Counselor, Vice Mayor, did anyone have questions?
Mayor, I have one, and it's just a point of clarification. As I'm reading this.
Please go ahead.
We are, you're recommending the water service approval as long as they extend it all the way down Mason Drive. I'm just wanting to double check that, correct?
Correct. That is the recommendation.
Okay.
Certainly can change that if you wish.
Okay. I have to say, I think that we need to be consistent with our developers as we work around things. And if we tell one he's got to do it, the rest of them have got to do it too. So, and we need the water. That's part of owning land. You got to get all the utilities there. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Counselor Nelson. Okay,
Madam
Vice
Mayor, I
Mayor.
need to recuse myself on this matter.
thank you, sir.
Okay.
You're ex- You're recused. Okay, we have two people signed up to speak. One is the applicant, Mr. Batcher. If you would come up and make your presentation to council.
Why do you have to recuse yourself? Because you know me?
Well,
He knows everybody up here. He talked to me about maybe you should. He wants to win again. Okay. I lived here 32 years. About 18 years ago, my wife wanted to build a house. There's another house on this side. I said, okay, but I had to do some rezoning. So I split it 5 ways, 1 acre parts. I was going to put in a 6-inch line. The city said we'd like 8 and we'll pay the difference in the line, which isn't that much. I paid the engineering, I paid Friday construction, I put in 2 hydrants. Now, if you go to the airport light and drive all the way to Valley Vista, he's worried about fire. There is no more hydrants, just those 2. When they had a big fire down here, up comes the fire trucks. It's hard for them to stay in the 16-foot easement, but they were putting out a fire, so I don't care. They were helping. Okay? Now, he wants a fire hydrant down there. For what? First of all, that land behind there is not going to go anywhere. Horses and Halfley's cows are going to eat off of it. I'm asking for 3 stubs right up here at the main line. And if that line was put in there, we would put the meters 400 feet from the end. Now you're going to have 6 or 8 inches of water sitting there forever. Are they going to flush it and flush it so that gets rid of it so we have fresh water? That'll cost the city a lot of money in wastewater. And with 6,000 acres of trees planted, we don't want to waste any. We might run out. The meter guy will have to run back there 3 places. Up here, he looks 1 place. There's 3 meters. Those properties are only 300 feet from that line. I'm wasting money. Now, I zoned those about in 2019, because the first piece I zoned for these houses. I zoned those because I was tired of cutting the weeds and I'm getting old. Now there's 2 more nice lots there. They're both sold. He said one was okay, but the other one was a corner lot. At the utilities meetings, they kept talking about a subdivision. It's not a subdivision. It's a nice place. You can have a nice room when you back your car out. You're not backing into the street, and people like to live like that. Plus, the first lot, the water, the 6-inch main that they had, maybe they ought to change it to an 8-inch main so he's got enough pressure. But pressure's fine. The water is not even on the easement. Should I tell a city to dig it up and put it in there? No, I'm not going to say that. Don't bother. But getting pretty technical, all I'm asking for is 3 stubs. I don't know if they'll build houses back there. I had a guy come want to buy the one, had it sold. He went to the water meter, talked to an engineer, and they said, oh, yeah, he's got to put a line all the way back there and throw another hydrant in. Hell, there's 2 of them right there. I can't understand it. First of all, they put this stuff online. They put a little paragraph in here that the neighbors, all the property owners signed. They're all in favor.
We have it.
But Nobody talks about it. You wouldn't have seen it if I didn't bring it, nor would the commission. I'm just asking for 3 stubs. We're not going to use a lot of water. And I'll guarantee you, and Mason Drive, maybe I should have never put it in there. I got a grandson named Mason. I thought I'd put the drive in, you know, because it had enough land. But it's not going nowhere.
Thank you, sir. Larry Axtell?
As you already said, my name is Larry Axtell. I own the center lot with the triangle in it and the land behind it. At the end of Mason Drive, I own a 1/4 of a mile completely down to the sewer plant. There's nothing going in there. In 15, 20 years from now, excuse me, in 15 or 20 years from now, something does go in. Wouldn't that be the logical time to put the pipe in? You'd know what is going in, you'd know what size it would be, and what size you needed. We're only asking for 3 stubs up, 1 stub up and 3. I talked to Lou and the engineer was out the other day. They stopped by the house, I got to talk to them. I asked the engineer several questions. One question was, why can't I put a meter then on my land? Oh, it's echoing back to me, so I thought I was loud. Why can't I put a meter in on my land at my house and have a second meter and run across my land? He said that's in violation. You cannot do that. So I said, well, then can I stub onto my existing line, run it to the trees behind me, put me in a little garden? He says, you can't do that. You do that, we can shut your meter off. We can shut your water off and pull your meter. So I'm in catch-22 here. I have no money to put a line in. And we're only asking, I just need a 3/4 line. All I need is something to water my trees and grow me a garden. I heard him state earlier that we had a low water pressure out there. Is that correct? I called the city and asked them to put in a regulator. It was blowing the filters out of my refrigerator. That doesn't sound like low water pressure. A 3/4 inch line, 300 feet to the end of my own property to the beginning of the next one. I'd have plenty of water. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There's no one else signed to speak on this issue, so I would open this up for discussion or questions, further questions to staff. I have one, and Manager Foggin, I'm not sure who the answer is, but
Go ahead.
I'd like to know more about the flushing of the line that was mentioned, about flushing water that
Sure.
just sits there.
Sure. So in a water system where you have property developed and someone pays, and this happened during the Great Recession as an example, water lines were installed and then subdivisions never came in after them. And so when water systems are built like that, we have a valving system that basically shuts that water off. The line remains charged, but there's generally not water flowing to it until there's activity on that line, and then that activity would result in the flushing of that line and fresh water then flowing through it. Probably would go through some chlorination process as part of that as well. But pretty standard practice to build lines in anticipation of growth in the future. And those lines do sit and they're valved off from the rest of the system so that that old water can't work its way back into our system. There's, you know, it's a clear plan in which to have these lines in place for future development.
And it is true that, that a fire hydrant can only be installed to a water main?
That's correct. You would never have enough water or pressure to fight a fire if you did not have it on a main.
And the 250 feet, or 200 feet, I kind
I
of
think
lost
the
that.
number was 250 required by the district.
Okay, so that's our fire department that was
It's
the
not,
commenter
it's
on
not,
that?
it's not our fire department, but we certainly helped them, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead,
that-
Phil.
Yeah,
But it's international fire code is what they're going off of.
okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question, Mayor.
Please go ahead, Councilor Mello.
Manager Foggin, so if there is more building going on, if this gentleman pays that as staff recommends, and there's more building that goes on, they can tie into it and he would be reimbursed some of that money? No? No? Okay.
Only if people connected a service line into the line that he constructed is how that would happen.
So are you saying that the main that would go down Mason would have to be extended if it did go back into that quarter acre or wherever, and then the new lines taken from that part of the main?
So if the line was constructed in Mason Drive and terminated at the end of the property, that line could be extended without any payback being paid. If he extended it beyond his property line,
Then it would
or
be
beyond the
paid
property
back.
lines and someone tied a meter into it, that's when the payback would come into play.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? No? Online? Okay, any discussion?
Mr. Badisher looks like has a comment.
Okay, I'll come up and please make a comment, brief comment.
Talks about payback. Well, how about me? You know, I put a line in across from Arizona Furniture and put a hydrant in there. I got some payback, but I have seen no payback for the $30-some thousand I spent on the other.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And I can't understand about that water.
That payback is from those that benefit from your line.
Yeah, I misunderstood.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I don't have a question, but I just have a comment. You know, you're always required to pay for your frontage, and that's basically what's going on here. And we don't know who's going to build in the future to the west of him. And it wouldn't be fair to them if they had to go in and if they didn't put this in, and let's say in 10 or 15 years they had to dig up the road, it may not be paved then, but still it's not fair for them to have to go in and dig in front of somebody else's frontage. And that's why the Utilities Commission has these regulations, and they heard it and they voted to give him water as long as he extends it.
Thank you, and I especially appreciate that as you are the liaison to that commission, so thank you for that insight. Any other discussion? Then I would entertain a motion regarding the approval of water service and the conditions thereof, if any.
I will make a motion to approve water service with the staff recommendations of extending the water line, and the fire hydrant, I believe, is in there.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Staley. We have a motion and a second to approve the water service with condition that a water extension be in accordance with utility regulations on Mason Drive. All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. The next order of business is really one that I look forward to because this is a very exciting thing for the city. And that is to approve the purchase of the DHS State Building. Economic Development Department is seeking the approval of the purchase agreement for the Arizona State Building at 519 Beale Street. And this building will be the future home of Kingman's Electric Car Museum. Staff recommends approval. So, Manager Faga, did you want to comment further?
Yes, Mayor, we just couldn't figure out a different word than museum, but we are really pleased with the work that we've been able to do. I need to give credit to Gary Kellogg and my Public Works team. Gary's team helped on this. It's really fun to be part of this project and see it come together. And so we've worked out a deal with the state for the purchase of this building. Having walked through it, it even makes me more excited about the ability we have to display vehicles, the electric car vehicles, and do some education as part of that. Gary and his team are already working on what that would ultimately look like and gathering information about how we can put our best foot forward and have a really class place that both our community can be proud of and people will want to visit. And so this is the first step in that. And so I'm happy to present to you the proposal to purchase the building that will then take us on to steps that are already actually working their way through, where we have an RFQ out for an architecture or an architect and a layout of the architecture for the building coming up shortly. So not much more to add than we're just really excited about it. So
It's exciting. Okay, are there any questions from staff? Or not from staff, no.
no questions from
ca-
staff.
You've already done your homework. Okay,
I do, Mayor.
pardon?
I have one.
Okay, please go ahead.
So Manager Foggin, how much is this building?
$875,000.
That's a lot of money, but isn't the money coming from the CARES Act money? So
Correct.
that has to be used on projects like these?
Correct. Yeah,
So
so
how
it
about that?
actually, so part of, you remember when we went through the budget process, one of the things that we spent quite a bit of time on is our tourist economy and rebuilding that economy. So in an effort to do that, we've actually got some dedicated funding that is going into our downtown. This is part of that. So we have the powerhouse on the other end of Beale Street. This is kind of the bookend to that. It actually really goes hand in glove with what we're trying to do with tourism. It'll give us the opportunity for tour bus parking and drop-off. The property's fantastic for when we have gatherings downtown to be able to offer parking to that as well. So it ends up being a win-win for the city in a whole bunch of different ways. So, and $875,000 is a lot. 3 years ago when the DHS building was actually being used, I got a call from one of the people at the state that's responsible for selling state property, and they wanted to know if we wanted to buy it, and 3 years ago, right? And I said, no, probably not. We'd be interested in looking at it. What are you asking? And they said, well, we have an appraisal for $2 million and an appraisal for just over $1 million. And I said, that's a little rich for our blood. But the money that we received as part of the CARES Act and the American Rescue funding has really made this a viable thing that prior to that was just a dream. So.
I did have a question. I'm just curious, with this addition and putting all the electric cars in there, is this give us just enough room? Does it give us room to grow?
So that's a great question. And I will say that with over 100 electric vehicles in which to display, we will not be able to display all the vehicles at the same time. So it will definitely be something that we rotate and show people new or different electric cars or different vehicles from time to time. So we will definitely have to be, I would say, careful with the space to be able to get as much bang as we want out of it. Because there's also the education piece that has been talked about, where we have every intention of having it be a true learning experience for people to know, when was the first electric vehicle created? What's the deal with DC power versus AC? So there's a whole bunch of programming that's going to be involved in this project. And my hope is that once we open the doors, that every fourth grader or whatever age group, maybe it's third, they're smart, right? For every third grader in this community gets a field trip to the Electric Car Museum and learns all there is about electric cars and what it took to get them to this point, and the science behind them as well. So there's a whole bunch of pieces to it, but the collection will definitely have to rotate, because in 18,000 square feet, there's only so many cars you can park. So
Sure, and I was hoping you would say that there would be a rotation
Yep.
to keep it fresh,
Yep.
to keep people coming back. Is there going to be any admission? Is this an opportunity to generate some revenue?
yes, ma'am. Our
Perfect.
intention is to run it that it will make some money. Obviously museums as a whole don't sustain themselves, but we are planning on having admission, and we'll work all those details out as we work through the planning process.
Perfect, and it's prime real estate for parking, so
Yes,
I'm
it
very
is. Yeah.
I'm very excited about
Yeah.
having more parking in downtown Kingman.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments? Vice Mayor?
Madam Mayor, thank you. I think it's a great idea. I think the notoriety and the tourism aspect from it, that it's going to bring more people here to Kingman, and the monies that can be made off that. I mean, I know it's been probably about 30 days that I Googled Electric Car Museum, but when you do, what comes up? Kingman, Arizona.
Yep.
And with the advent of electric cars are becoming so popular, I think it'll be a win-win for us.
Yeah, and I would
So-
say this, I just remind the council that we've been working with Tesla to put some what they call super charging stations at the powerhouse. And through those negotiations, of course, the whole time I was bugging the guy that we were working with about Tesla donating some money to help us build an electric car museum. And he finally said, Mr. Fogg, and we don't donate to build buildings, but let me know when we can donate a car. So he's going to get a call. And so we're going to add, hopefully add a Tesla to the collection. So
Thanks.
Perfect. This project will create the bookends that we've always talked about for downtown, with the powerhouse at one side and now this electric car museum at the other end. And that encourages along with our streetscape project, which is going to encourage pedestrian traffic. This is just, the pieces have just all fallen into place. And fortunately, the funding has come through that we could do this. So I really appreciate that the city moved forward, and that Manager Foggin and Director Kellogg and all of the team leaders and members that were part of this. I see Jack out there from Public Works. It just takes the whole team to get something like this done, and it's very appreciated. Kingman moves forward. Thank you. So now I would entertain a motion regarding approving if I could find it, approving the purchase of the DHS State Building.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilor Samley and a second from Councilor Walker. All in favor, aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations to us, to all of us. Okay, we now move on to department reports. And I imagine that's Judge Singer coming up here to giving us a Veterans Court update. and Domestic Violence Court proposal.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I appreciate the opportunity to get to speak here tonight. I'm just watching the clock here because I know I'm going to be on the timer, so.
Your reputation precedes you.
Yeah, that joke will never get old. So again, I want to, I'm here two reasons, twofold. Speaking of a department report from what we got going on at the court, of course, one thing that we're most proud of is our Veterans Treatment Court that hopefully you all are proud of too, because you all are a big part of it, just like we are over at the courthouse. The timing is right to give a report on the Veterans Court because we're finishing up with our SAMHSA grant with Lake Havasu. It was a 3-year grant. We got a 1-year no-cost extension, and so that's going to be wrapping up at the end of September. That has enabled us to expand our Veterans Treatment Court and provide additional services and bring in more veterans in the community. And we are up to 67 graduates in the Veterans Treatment Court. We're very, very proud of that. We have applied for another grant, a different grant, a BJA grant, again with Lake Havasu. We just figure if we team up, that's usually been more effective and everything, stay competing with each other. So we're just waiting to get word on that to see if that is going to come through or not. But regardless, the Veterans Treatment Court is in great shape. Again, we're very, very proud of it. One thing I sent over was, I think a good way to get a clear example of what we're doing at the Veterans Treatment Court and a good, shall we say, evaluation or analysis is I submitted, what we've been doing for several years here is having our graduates do an evaluation form on the day of graduation. And that way we get sort of the most truthful, honest answers about, maybe what we're doing right, what we may need to work on. And so what we do then is every year, then at the end of the year, they all get shuffled in. They're all anonymous. They don't put their names on them. Is then my staff puts them all together, shuffles them all up, and then gives them to me. And then I compile a summary of their answers, again, not knowing who wrote what or what their answers were, and then I provide it to my my Veterans Treatment Court team and everything. And I want you all to have a copy of this as well, because it sort of sums up and gives you, I think it's a clear example of what we're getting done at the Vet Corps. Again, things we need to work on. A lot of the responses are positive. This is just from 2020, the 2020 graduates. We had 17 return their evaluations, and again, a lot of positives. One thing that kind of opened my eyes was a comment, and I think it's something we need to get back to. We're just trying to juggle it with COVID. Is I think the camaraderie and the events that we have, like the picnics and the hikes and things like that we were doing previously, I think that was kind of one thing that they said they really missed out on and they really wanted to do. So we're trying to get back into the swing of things. We've already had one hike, we've had one picnic, and so we're trying to build up that camaraderie. Another thing that we're doing is we're organizing an alumni group for the graduates. When they finish the program, a lot of them become mentors in the program, but some of them just don't want to, or for whatever reason. But we still want to build an alumni group so they have that camaraderie. They still feel tied to the court in some way, somehow, and that way they know that we're always there for them. So that's another project that we're working on, and we've got people working on that. And again, when you just look through the summary, a few of the narratives that kind of stand out about factors that help you complete the Veterans Treatment Court. One that jumps out and I think just sums up why we do this program is this. One of the veterans wrote, "The whole program itself and the teamwork involved to convince me that there are people who seriously care and want to help. The whole program for me, which is centered at mental treatment, has given me a life back that I haven't seen in 37 years. Literally saved my life and cleansing my soul." I mean, I think that sums it up greatly. And again, I get way too much credit for this program. It's because of my team over there. It's because you all allow me to do this. We've been doing this now for 5.5 years, and I talked to a bunch of other judges, a bunch of other programs and everything like that, and I can't think of another judge or another court that has stronger support from their city council than what I have. So again, I just want to thank you all. And again, this community and this city is so pro-veteran that I think letting me have this program and everything, just, you all deserve a round of applause as much as any of us do, because when you read things like that, you realize, yeah, this program is saving lives. It's because you all allow us and enable us to do that. So just want to thank you. And again, I'm not going to go through step by step of this summary, but of the evaluation, but you have it, and you get a good idea of what the program means to the participants, primarily the graduates. So, having said that, I figured I need to make myself a little busier, and it's maybe time to start another specialty court. And that's what I wanted to talk about here as well tonight, is the possibility of starting a domestic violence court. I'd love to take credit for this being my original idea. Recently, this is here when a prosecutor and defense counsel want to come up and talk to me and have a joint idea. It's very odd. But they did, and my city assistant prosecutor, Megan Verhalen, and one of the attorneys from the Whitney firm who represents our indigent clients, Brock Wicklund, came up and said, "Judge, we got an idea for a specialty court, another specialty court." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, Veterans Court takes a lot of time. What are you thinking? And they said, "How about a domestic violence court?" And I started thinking about it. I didn't know much about a domestic violence court. To be honest with you, there's only one other one that we found in the state of Arizona, and that is down in Pinal County. And I've had a lot of conversations with the individuals down in Pinal County about their domestic violence court. But, as it's been clear to us in the court system, at least firsthand, is, domestic violence is a huge problem here in Kingman. And I think between the prosecution, even defense counsel, myself, we're getting pretty frustrated with seeing the same people over and over and over with these domestic violence charges. And it's a dangerous situation. It's dangerous for law enforcement when they go out. Those are probably the most dangerous calls. And I think it's time to do something. And there's all these other specialty courts going on throughout the state and the country, obviously veterans courts, but drug courts, mental health courts, DUI courts. Not a lot of domestic violence courts, but I think we can be game changers here, and I think this is something that we can really grow with and really be a benefit for the community and for all the players involved. And it's about, one, keeping victims safe, and two, about holding the offenders accountable. And sometimes, the way the court system is set up, holding people accountable in veterans court, we can hold them accountable, we see them regularly and everything like that. In traditional court, non-veterans court, sometimes it's hard to, because they miss counseling or they get no charges or things like that. It's just the wheels of justice, which aren't always the most swift. Well, if you have another specialty court like this, like domestic violence court, where you're bringing the people in regularly, you're staffing with the area counselors, and we have several agencies here who are certified to do domestic violence counseling, and we do this as a team approach. And one of the pluses that I have, which a lot of courts don't have, I have my own probation officer, and we can utilize probation on this as well. We can do this, and we can be successful. I honestly believe it. And what I wanted to do was, if we have the video, I've researched different videos of different programs throughout the country. Some of them just didn't fit because of again, I'm a limited jurisdiction court, I'm a misdemeanor court. But the one that probably fits the best about what I want to do comes from Boise, Idaho. It's about a 10-minute video, and it pretty much sums up their domestic violence court, and ours wouldn't be identical, but would be very similar. So if we could watch that video, and it'll give you all a better example of what we'd like to do.
All right. Magistrate court is in session. Honorable Judge Henry presiding.
Good morning. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, let me know when you're ready. Okay, so good morning.
Good morning, Judge.
Where do you want to start?
Serving a county of almost 400,000 residents, the Ada County Domestic Violence Court in Boise, Idaho, was created to improve the handling of some of the justice system's most challenging cases involving violence among intimate partners. The court was designated a National Mentor Court by the Federal Office on Violence Against Women for its groundbreaking innovations, which include enhancements to improve victim safety and defendant monitoring.
Business as usual doesn't work. It's not having successful outcomes. People are reoffending. Victims are not feeling safe. They're not feeling like they have any confidence in the court system. We want that victim to live in a home where she's not fearful, where she's not waking up in the morning just waiting for the static electricity in the air to change to see what mood the spouse is in.
Among many enhancements, the court makes an effort to better understand families, victims, and offenders by using evidence-based risk assessment tools to inform its decisions.
Each of our police reports actually include the Idaho risk assessment of dangerousness in each domestic violence report.
Some of the information that we're receiving off that Idaho risk assessment of dangerousness tool is lethality factors. So we're looking to see whether or not there's previous domestic cases, whether or not an individual has unreported history of domestic violence, whether there's been attempted strangulations, forced rape. We're looking for periods of separation, whether or not law enforcement has had contact with this offender before.
The court has also expedited the handling of cases. This has allowed the court to link victims more swiftly to safety services and offenders to treatment, while minimizing the harm that a prolonged court case can have on families.
We came up with a system that accelerates the domestic violence cases through the system, the goal being 45 to 60 days from that time of arrest to that case being dispositioned.
The goal that we wanted to accomplish was to avoid the deterioration that families experience as a result of an extended period of time when criminal cases are not dispositioned.
You get them into a phase where you're addressing treatment, you're holding an offender accountable, the victim's accessing resources.
The expedited process allows victims to have finality, and additionally, offenders' due process rights are also being accounted for.
By coordinating with court personnel and community-based providers, the court has developed a range of policies and procedures to improve security for victims both inside and outside the courthouse.
The court will issue no contact orders, almost always at arraignment, to make the victim feel safe. In addition to that, there's physical safety support at the courthouse. When persons come into the courthouse, they're screened through metal detectors. The Women's and Children's Alliance also has victim advocates who will travel with the victim up to different court levels and be in the hallways with them if needed. In addition to that, the marshals have a policy that the parties leave the building separately.
I am present in court at every session to be there with the victims, to answer their questions, to make sure that they have the ability to address the court should they need it. And if they choose not to be in court, then I'm calling and letting them know what happens afterwards.
My role with the organization, with the Women's and Children's Alliance, is to oversee civil legal assistance for victims. So we have emergency shelter, and we also have transitional shelters. We also have case management services and counseling services, and that's for children, teenagers, and adults.
The court works closely with the local Family Justice Center, which houses a number of law enforcement and victim services agencies under one roof, making it a safe and convenient place for victims to get legal, medical, emotional, and social support.
We meet with victims the morning after a probable cause arrest of domestic violence. That occurs every day at 11 a.m. at Faces Our Family Justice Center. We can meet with victims then, and victims can get a multitude of services at Faces.
Faces of Hope Victim Center is a triage center for victims in Ada County. We literally are a one-stop shop of immediate crisis, medical, social, educational, and legal services. And we serve domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and elder abuse right here in our facility.
The court moves cases quickly through the system to minimize negative impacts on families, but it also takes time at each hearing for litigants to voice concerns.
I've been going through this since 2014. He gets to call and call me filthy names and I'm worthless, and then that just puts me back to start one again. I want to say you guys really, it's a breath of fresh air over here. I do appreciate it.
It's because of these people that he's not going to be a player, and we're going to hold him accountable.
Thank you.
Offender accountability is another key component of the court's approach to handling domestic violence cases. Through frequent court appearances and regular updates from probation staff, the court monitors compliance with its orders.
In the regular criminal calendar, I would sentence them. The only way I'd hear about them is if there was a probation violation or a contempt filed later. But domestic violence court, We have very frequent reviews. We're bringing the people in.
The court sets regular review hearings, anywhere from a bi-monthly basis all the way up to 120 days out once an offender is doing really well in their process.
Someone did not attend a domestic violence class last night. That treatment provider has to upload that information to a computer system, and my probation officer will then notify the prosecuting attorney, who can then ask me for an emergency hearing to bring the defendant in. So that's immediate accountability.
If somebody violates a court order, you've got to move quickly, and if you don't, you give the idea that nothing's going to be done and people can get away with stuff.
At first, we might call them in for an unscheduled meeting, do a verbal warning. We have done group meetings for probationers of domestic violence where we have them come in for a group probation meeting. If they're not doing well, they have their peers that are usually also in their domestic violence group, and those peers can actually give them feedback outside of group. If noncompliance continues to happen, we can even take them into custody for a couple days on discretionary jail time, and then eventually it would result in a probation violation.
Thank you, Judge. Not only do I have concerns about the fact that he's already lying to his probation officer about the substance abuse evaluation, and the fact that he's not reporting for drug testing, and I'm curious if some discretionary jail time would be a good idea here, Judge.
Yeah, no, I'm grievously disappointed. I'm going to remand for 3 days, forthwith, no options. When you get out in 3 days, if you don't immediately make contact with your PO, I think you've heard that the state is ready to fire up a probation violation, and there's significant jail time over your head, 441 days of jail that can be imposed.
2 judges share the docket, presiding on alternate weeks. This allows the judiciary to innovate using existing staff and resources.
This judge is going to keep mainly their docket, and this judge will keep mainly their docket, but every other week they're going to alternate presiding over the domestic violence court.
I firmly believe that the person who's in charge of running a domestic violence court has to be somebody who wants to be there, who has an interest in and has been educated about domestic violence issues, and wants to actually know this family, know this individual, and ask these really hard questions, and actually start caring about the outcomes in these cases.
One key to the success of the domestic violence court is that it has built links to local resources and cultivated community buy-in.
A judge has to really look holistically at their community to figure out where your resources are, where they're not, where are your gaps in resources, and have everybody sat down and talk to one another about sharing resources.
The biggest way to enhance the collaboration and coordination between the court and its partners is to maintain communications with them about what we're actively doing and where we want to go. In addition to that, we want to make sure that we keep track of what hasn't worked in the past. I also keep in touch with different service providers, ask them how are things going, what do you see working, what's not working.
I think anytime you try to do something like this, you've got to change the culture, and we change the culture in the judicial system as to how these cases are handled, and I think culture change in the broader community. But that's a continual job.
Okay, so that pretty much sums up, like, again, Boise has different resources than Kingman, but a lot of it, in terms of accountability and things like that, are very similar to what I want to get addressed, as well as collaboration of resources. I think we've done a pretty good job of that with the Veterans Treatment Court. I think we'll be able to utilize a lot of those existing relationships and some new relationships as well in doing a domestic violence court. Again, it is I see it on the first hand about what a problem it is here, and I just think it's something that we should try. I've been debating it, thinking, going through it. Again, a lot of responsibility fall on my shoulders and everything about running a new specialty court, but I think it's something we should try here, and I think we could do some good. And we've got cooperation again from law enforcement, from the city attorney's office, and I guess 2 questions I'm thinking that you all may have is, one, what would be the cost of this, and I think it would be very minimal. I already have the framework and the template set up with the Veterans Treatment Court. We already have a program coordinator over there, and I would just sort of transition her in from Veterans Treatment Court coordinator to specialty court coordinator. And as far as other expenses, it would be very minimal. So I don't see this being a big expense deal. I just more court time and utilizing the resources that we have here in the community. And second, timeline. Want to do it, but we want to do it right. And so I would anticipate getting all our ducks in a row and probably starting this maybe at the beginning of 2022, probably in, next 4 to 5 months and everything. So, this is something I think we're excited about. If it works, I would like all the credit. If it doesn't, I'm going to blame Megan Verhalen and Brock Wicklund for presenting it to me. So, we're excited about it. I think this is something that could work. And again, we'd be the second one in the state of Arizona, the only one at my level to do it. And I think it can be done. I think we can do some good, and we can start addressing this. It's the most, in my opinion, the most dangerous situation and the most serious cases I deal with in that court are these domestic violence cases. And I think if we can, address this, I think we can stop the recidivism. We can, and just help the community as a whole. So. And on top of that, I just also want to do a reminder that our next vet court graduation is September 15th, and I do want to invite you all to it. So if you haven't been to a vet court graduation, come and see what we're doing over there and what y'all's firsthand efforts are paying off here. It'll be a neat graduation. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about the current vet court or what we're thinking about with the domestic violence court or.
Questions? Everybody wants to.
I do.
Okay, please go ahead.
On the vet court graduation, what time is that?
1:30.
1:30, okay. I very much support this idea. I do have some concerns. Do we have all the ancillary services? All the community services. They had a wide range of community collaborated agencies that they could work with. So I just want to make sure that we, it's set up for success.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to set this up where we're struggling right off the bat.
Sure.
And as I've looked across, I think I'm confident that we do. We built up so many of these relationships through the vet court and everything that, even talking to the folks down in Pinal County, heck, I have even some more resources than they don't have, which is shocking to me. So, I mean, it's like, and they're very proud of their program, and they've been doing it for about 18 years. So I do believe that we have them. It's just getting everybody together and getting everybody in the same room and make sure everybody's on the same page with this.
Sure.
So that's why, it's not something I'm ready to start tomorrow, but I do think, within the next 6 months, again, beginning 2022, I think as long as we got our ducks in a row, we'll be ready to roll with it.
And this would be something that would prevent things from escalating? You would catch it at a lower level to prevent them from...
Well, yeah, it gets frustrating when you have somebody who's got a domestic violence case and, they may be on probation with us and they pick up another one, or somebody, I think it'll help prevent it won't eliminate, but it'll help prevent the continual getting these cases or whatever, because, just coming over to my court and everything, I don't know how scary I look or dealing with my cases or whatever, but sometimes just telling them, ordering them to do the DV counseling or, things like that, or the other consequences of their actions, it's the accountability. And if we're bringing them in and we're nipping it in the bud as quick as possible, I think that's a lot better than waiting and, oh, geez, it's been several months, we don't have a report from, one of the counseling agencies about that they're not doing their counseling, or geez, they're getting in more trouble, or there's more issues at home. I also want the opportunity for, the victims to be able to come in and tell us, hey, yeah, if we're having court, every once a month, every 2 weeks, however often we're doing it, yeah, telling us, hey, yeah, this is what's going on at home. These are the problems, and so that way we can keep our thumb on the entire situation, because right now we just we do our best, but we're at limited information.
Sure.
So.
And do we have a drug court?
The county has a drug court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I can also see this as, help, there could be some crossover. I
Sure.
mean, if domestic violence is a product of the use of drugs and alcohol, then I could see this, helping out with that as well, so.
It goes hand in hand, I think, with a lot of things, and so that's why we would potentially have, you know, we can steer their counseling as we get to know them, and we do those assessments and everything with them to know, okay, no, you don't just need domestic violence counseling, you need drug counseling, alcohol counseling, or something like that, or you need help. Maybe the issues are because you're not working. Okay, we're going to steer you to one of these agencies to help you get a job. That's why the domestic violence is occurring, or, you know, whatever the situation is. That way we'd see the whole picture like we do in Veterans Court and get them lined up with the resources that we have here in the community.
Right.
So.
Well, thank you. I wholeheartedly support this. You're doing great work in our community, and this is just an add-on to trying to help those that are in need. So appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Judge, appreciate all you're doing. I appreciate your energy and your passion about this. You mentioned you're not sure how scary you look up there, but but nonetheless, appreciate all that. Metrics is important. I appreciate this survey that you've done. Do you have, and I hate to even bring it up, are there any repeat offenders as far as the Veterans Court? Have you had any?
Our recidivism rate, which, well, I'll start big and then I'll come down so we can sort of brag a little bit.
Let's be positive.
Recidivism rates, the last numbers that I saw for just in general population, were way over 50%. For specialty courts like a drug court, it's usually about 30 to 35%. For veterans treatment courts, they do better traditionally, about 20%. My goal has been to be under 10%, and I think we're at 3%. So of my 67 graduates, again, I'm a lawyer, not a mathematician, but I believe we have had 2 reoffenders. So
that's great.
So I mean, I think the program works.
I mean, metrics are important, and as from the financial side of it, it is good for all of us to know, as members of the city, where all these monies are going for and that it's going for such a positive thing. Once again, appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilor Mello.
Yeah, Judge Singer, I just want to thank you and your staff for all the good that you do for our beloved veterans. And if Manager Foggin and Director Moline say we can do it financially, you have my support 100%.
Yeah, I can just tell you this. I'm not going to ask y'all for any more money. I mean, if it's in my budget, I've already thought through this and everything. We're not going to ask for any more funds. I know we can do this.
I did hear that, and I have talked to Judge Singer, and I think we are a go. The devil's in the details, obviously, and he's got some work to do to put the court together, but I have no doubt that Judge Singer will work with his team within the budget they have.
Anyone online or anyone here?
I'd just like to
Councilor
echo,
Walker.
I think you guys are doing a great job, and if you're crazy enough to take this on, we're crazy enough to support it.
Sometimes you talk big, and then down the road, I mean, you say, what was I doing?
You guys are doing a great job. I think this would be a great addition to what you guys are doing. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Needless to say.
Go for it.
Go ahead, Councilor Delson.
Just simply agree and go for it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Singer. I know that you'll bring the same commitment, dedication, professionalism, and success to this court, and it is so needed in our community. And I don't know if you're going to put the tribute plaques on the wall.
No, it'll be a little bit different.
It'll be a little different.
Let's put it, yeah.
But I do think that a lot of the resources that are in the Veterans Treatment Resource Team will just flow right into this, and others are available to come in, I'm sure, from the continuum of care, just all over. This will, I think, have very positive participation throughout the community. It's so positive. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let us go to announcements by Mayor, Council Member, City Manager. Manager Foggin.
I have no announcements, Mayor.
Okay. Councilor Walker. Samily.
I have nothing.
Mello.
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to let the community know that the Catherine Heinrich Adult Center this Saturday at 8 a.m. is going to be having a free pancake breakfast to all the volunteers and patrons over 65. are welcome to attend that event. They're going to have pancakes and sausage and fruit. Sure wish I could go, but I'll be out of town. But this Saturday, August 21st at 8 o'clock at the Catherine Heinrich Center.
Thank you. Okay, to Councilor Nelson,
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Councilor Staley.
I don't have anything to add this evening.
Okay, thank you. Did I get everyone except me? Pardon? Oh, Vice Mayor.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Hey.
We're good.
You gotta punch me, you know.
It's all good.
All right. I want to report that I attended the Live Well Mojave meeting at the KRMC last week or the week before, whichever, and it was about a 3-hour meeting of goal setting for ways to improve on the Community Health Improvement Plan. And it was a good facilitated goal-setting session. And I bring it up particularly because our former Chief DeVries was there, and he gave such really positive outcomes associated with MSTEP. And MSTEP was actually created as a result of this forum that started a number of years ago, this health improvement plan. And they've had remarkable success. So again, you get all these resources together toward a goal, and good things happen. And one of the things that there are 3 committees that are that come from this forum, and one of them is a healthy living committee. And I've talked to Manager Foggin because one of the goals set was to increase the level of physical activity of our residents. That would go a long way toward well, healthy living, mental health, many things. So I'm hoping that Manager Foggin, who's connected now with the KRMC person, I'm hoping the city can have a representative on that committee because we have so much to offer in terms of activities, and we need to be part of that discussion. So that was a real positive outcome. The other committees are opioid and addiction and also mental health. So all of those players that are on those committees of Live Well Mojave are probably ones you should just rein in, Judge Singer, and make sure they're part of this resource team. And other than that, I don't think I have anything further. So, do we have any requests from the council for future reports or updates? Hearing none, we'll move forward to executive session. Could I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. All in favor, aye? Aye. Let's move to executive session. Everybody back? Okay. I'll just go ahead and make a motion that we authorize the city attorney to proceed as directed on the opioid legislation. Is there a second?
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Meeting adjourned.
I'll second.